So, I've been having a terrible time finding new cars. Every time I kind of find one, and since I live out in the middle of nowhere, I drive several hours to go check it out. And sometimes it's there, and sometimes it's not there anymore. Like, there's one, I called ahead, and I was like, oh, I'm going to swing by and, like, look at this car. And so I drove into Calgary, and that's, when we came and visited you and visited my girlfriend's family. And then I get there, and I literally called the guy. I was like, oh, yeah, I'll be coming in today. And then I get out there, and I'm, like, looking at the car, and it's like, oh, yeah, this is the one. Salesman doesn't walk up to me, and it's like, well, it's a Saturday. Most salesmen will be out here. And I go inside, and this guy's wearing sunglasses indoors, like a real cool character. And I asked him, like, oh, can I check with that car? It was the guy that called in. And he's like, oh, I just sold it. What? It's like, yeah, some guy just came in with cash and paid for it. It's like, are you kidding me? I just drove 2 hours and there's not even a car for me to look at. It's like, ugh, I hate this. And
it's really frustrating.
That's only the first time it's happened. Like, I looked at another car and I literally got my loan set up. And the day I called him, telling him that I'd be getting my, I'd come in with a check. He's like, oh yeah, some guy showed up with cash just like 10 minutes ago and bought it. It's like, are you serious? So as long as I'm interested in the car, it will sell.
Huh.
Yeah.
You should go work at a car dealership and they pay you to be interested in cars.
Absolutely.
And they'll just always be like sold out of cars. Like, man, I can't believe how much millions of dollars we're making. Here's a bonus.
Yeah, it's like, wow, you should really like Kias because those things don't sell.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I feel like this podcast is just going to be, hey, listen to all the fun stuff that we're trying to buy. We're two young men who don't have a lot of disposable money. Listen to our woes.
Yeah. And it's like, we don't have kids, so let me tell you about the times I'm spending money on myself.
Yeah, like I could tell you about my adventure. I bought a PS Vita thinking like, oh, this is sweet. You need a memory card. You know what they don't make anymore?
Memory cards.
Memory cards. Was at the grocery store today, and I was looking through the video game section. They have an empty slot. $10 for a 16 gig memory card. You know how much money I spent to buy a 16 gig memory card online right now? $60.
And you found one at like just the
No,
door?
they were sold out.
Brutal.
Oh my goodness! Like I'm just sitting there and I'm just like shaking my head. I was like, this is just, why did I get on a dying product here?
And that's a problem with electronics. They have their lifespans, and sometimes they just end. And you're like, this sucks. I literally just bought this.
Yeah. Well, and like the other one too is you could buy them at EB Games. They have refurbished ones. They have a bunch on Kijiji. And there's one that's like $150 for a 16 game memory card, 2 games, and a PS Vita. And I was like, why didn't I just fucking buy that? Like, you know?
Live and learn.
It sucks to spend money on stuff or want to spend money on stuff and keep being denied. Why won't you take my money, economy?
Right? You're like, I just want to buy large objects and just, enjoy them and spend lots of money.
It's all that fucking Obama's fault.
Obama. You guys know you're Canadian, right? And the U.S. economy doesn't really directly affect you.
No, speaking of Canadian, this might wreck the evergreenness of this episode a little bit, but you don't have TV, do you?
No.
I was going to tell you, I was like, we sat and watched the Tragically Hip concert last night on CBC.
Yeah.
It was great. It was literally just a live concert, like no commercial breaks, no one talking or like commentary. It was just, this was the concert.
Nice.
It's pretty sweet.
You know what? Considering like he had like the Tragically Hip have been like kind of a Canadian icon. I don't love their music, whatever, but I can still respect. They've done a lot for the Canadian music industry, and honestly, it's kind of horrible, kind of what Gord Downey's going through. But he's a national treasure. So.
Well, I feel the same way about Sting. Like Sting's one of my idols. I've never listened to his music, but the fact he's making it, I respect that.
Great reference.
Yeah, that's exactly. You're like, I don't listen to it or like it, but like I respect it. I was like, thanks, Hansel.
He's so hot right now.
Yeah. All right, want to get into this?
Sure.
Introducing the epic challenge that only the Super Nintendo Entertainment System could make possible. Across endless land and water, you search. Deep into a parallel world where light becomes dark, you search. And just when you think your search has ended, you find it's just begun. The new Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. Now you're playing with power and superpower.
Welcome to the Podtendo podcast, where we analyze, reminisce, and replay the glory of old Nintendo games. We can be contacted on Twitter at Podtendo Podcast, email us at podtendo@gmail.com, or check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/podtendo. I'm your host, Mick, and I'll be joined every episode by a special guest. This week's guest is...
Tyson.
I really want to come up with like a singing version of your song, like get that "I need a hero, I'm holding on," and overlay just like your very plain like Tyson with like "I need a Tyson, I'm holding on for a Tyson to the end of the night." So I might do that at some point and have a really like jivey fun entrance for you.
Nice. I'm excited to listen to that, and just because I won't even know about it, but it'll just be there one day.
Yeah, like you might know about it, but it might not be that song. It might just be, and you probably won't know about it because I'll just do it in post when I'm editing. I'll just be like, this is the day he gets a fun, flashy entrance. And you go back and listen to it and be like, I don't remember singing a Gloria Gaynor song, but sounds like something I would have done.
Absolutely.
Nice. So, this week's episode, because they're not, this episode, god damn it, it's not weeks. This episode's topic, The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past.
Yeah, best Zelda game.
Best game ever, according to Tyson. So, it's a big one.
Big one.
Hopefully do it justice. The release date was April 13th, 1992. How long to beat it has 15 hours. I did it in about 6.5. So suck it.
Yeah, I was probably around like 8 or 9, but I was taking a cheater's route, so...
Alright, well that's still fairly respectable. Actual retail price, this was $60 when it came out, which in today's economy would be $90.86. Thanks a lot, Obama. Fucking Obama. Current eBay price. A loose cartridge of this game will be about $29. If you get it complete in box, that's going to set you back $95. And if you can find a factory sealed unopened copy, it'll be $192.50.
Man, that's crazy.
Pretty pricey. eShop prices for this title on the new 3DSs. So not the 3DS you have. If you have like the one with the little C stick on it, you can get this game for $13. Or it's $8 on the Wii U. So
best buy it on the Wii U.
There's also a Game Boy Advanced copy of this. I don't think it ever made it into the Master Collection on the GameCube. So it's not like Final Fantasy 1 where there's 17 copies of it, but you should be able to find a model of this game that will work for you.
Yeah, and even with Final Fantasy 1, you can even play it on your mobile phone now.
Oh yeah, I don't want to try that. That just seems like a waste of money.
Sounds horrible.
So some of the development details of this fine title. This game took 2 years to make. 1 year was used just to design the map of the levels and the overworld. How crazy is that?
That's bloody ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it kind of makes sense when you think about how complicated the actual like map and dungeons are. Like they're really complex.
Yeah, and like if you look at the specifics of this game, it kind of makes sense. So it's the other year of development was used just for the gameplay. They had limited memory assets. Almost half the memory was used just on the music alone in this game.
Worth it.
They reused a lot of the assets to help save on the memory, and that's why the Dark World is actually just kind of a flip of the Light World. This was the very first game to use an 8 megabyte cartridge. That's right, 8 megabytes. That's like a song file.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this podcast is like 7 of those.
Absolutely, way more than that. So 8 megabytes. They used 3 to 5 megabytes just on the music alone. Up until this point, the largest card they'd ever used was 4, so they did double it for this game. So that's why it does seem like it's a little bit bigger of a title, but I mean, still, that's just, ugh.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Like, that's, oh my goodness. Really, I mean, for what it is, I respect this game a whole lot more just knowing those little facts now. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways they were able to restrict the memory was Light World and Dark World are basically identical in layout. Dark World exists in the game's ROM just as an overlay of the Light World. I mean, minus a couple of different tiles. So basically, they just created one tile with 2 sides, and they literally just flip it over for Dark World. Hence why it took so long. because you have to be really smart. Like, it's really easy to make a broken game when you're doing that.
Yeah, especially if you're having to reuse your assets, you got to be darn near have an exact plan what you want to do.
Yeah. So controls of this game. So I figured I was trying to make Zelda 2 talk it up for how great it was in the control area. So I did the exact same layout here. Zelda 1 we had 7 combat options. Zelda 2 we had 9. So in this game we get spoiled and there's 11 different combat options. So they just keep growing, and I didn't even count the defense items. So there are some rods and spells that I don't really count as kind of the combat options, but I mean this game is growing infinitely from the Zelda 1 and 2. Link can also now run and swim, so he's a lot more agile than he was in the past. You aren't restricted to that grid format, so you can kind of move side to side. So it seems like it's a lot more of a fluid movement to this game.
You can even abuse kind of that certain squares. You can abuse pixels. It's really cool.
Yeah, and then there is no disconnect in this game between the exploring and combat. So just like the first Zelda game, it has kind of a, what's it called? Selective Z-axis. So you move left to right, so that's your X and Y, and the Z-axis would be kind of that three-dimensional overlay. Some bats will fly around in the air, and some other characters will jump over you, but it's all selective, right? So and it just helps for very clean gameplay.
Yeah, it adds a lot of more depth too and everything.
So this game is huge in my life. This might be one of the first games where I have like a serious nostalgia moment, and like I can tell you the first time I played the game. And so first memories, what are your first memories of this game?
Going to my best friend at the time, who just lived down the road in a little small town, BC, and we were hanging out in his basement. I even remember what it looked like, because it was like you walk straight into his house, there's stairs directly to the basement, and it was kind of just like a carpeted basement, and they had like their old CRT TV hooked up down there, and he literally just got it like that day, and he like plugged in, and I just watched him play Legend of Zelda and had my mind blown. It's like, this looks like the coolest game ever. The graphics are so amazing, the sound is so cool, and like it's so scary. Like it was dark and stormy, and there's nights and all that kind of stuff. It was great. It was perfect. And I remember we literally just sat there. We didn't even go outside. It was like he got it on like a Saturday, and we ate it like lunch and dinner, and I wanted to stay the night so I could keep watching him play it. Like I didn't even play it. I literally just sat there and like watched him play it because it was his game. He just got it. I was just happy enough to just sit there and be in awe of it.
So basically, he was the very first Let's Player in the world.
Yeah, to me, for sure. It was basically like in real life YouTube Let's Play.
Wow, that's weird. So you have to go to someone's house and have friends to watch other people play video. Such a weird concept.
It's terrible.
Well, I'll just go to my friend PewDiePie and Markiplier's house and watch them play. It's the same thing.
Basically.
Nice. Yeah, for myself, it was 5. I remember having a friend, or it was either I was at a friend's house or he came to my house with the copy of the game, and we played the game. It seemed like just super epic. Like nothing I had really seen before. It seemed very clean and crisp, whereas lots of the games I was finding at the time were just so disoriented. Like, there's so many goddamn games that just don't make sense back on the Super Nintendo and the NES.
Yep.
Sometimes right selects and B selects, and sometimes you have to hit like select. Oh, it's just so complicated. But like this game just seemed so crisp and so clean. And
it was really like, it was the kind of the first like adventure game I've played. Like I've played platformers where you go left or go right, or you go right, and just like that, I've seen that before when we played like tons of old sports games. So to have an entire world, like you look at that map and you're like, I can go anywhere. It's like, yeah, it's like you need to go everywhere and discover everything. You're just like, that was mind-boggling to me that you would have such freedom in a video game.
Yeah, I don't think I actually owned a copy of this game. For whatever reason, it eluded me. I don't know if it was just, I feel like we only had crappy Super Nintendo games. I don't know if we ever had like any of the premium like AAA titles. I think we owned like SWAT Cats and Spawn.
I feel like when we got our Super Nintendo, the Super Nintendo was kind of on the end of its lifespan.
No, because we had it like, must have been 92 or 93.
Yeah.
It was when we got it. Because I'm thinking it's like right close, maybe even like 91. Because like we had it by the time we moved, and that we would have moved in 92. So we had it in 91, so we just never had any AAA titles. Like we had Donkey Kong Country,
Turtles in Time.
That one, Mario Kart, Super Mario World.
Yeah, Donkey Kong Country 2.
Yeah,
Country
that was a
2,
Christmas
3.
present. That was a Christmas present the following, or like maybe 2 years. But I think it was one of those things as a kid, you just didn't go and get like a brand new title all the time. It was birthdays, maybe
Or
birthdays,
Blockbuster.
or Christmas. Those are really the times your parents were like, I'm not going to spend $60 on a game. Like, here, I'll buy you a cassette player and I'll buy you like a baseball bat. And that's your birthday.
Yeah, because our most parents are going to be like, well, I don't want to just get you one thing for your birthday, so I'm going to get you these 2 or 3 smaller things.
Yeah.
Which in hindsight is way better to do it, instead of being like, oh, hey, here's that one thing that you might not even like.
Well, now I want to go buy a game. Like, I wanted to play, I was looking at some titles, and I found like Jurassic Park, the Lego Jurassic Park, so I just bought that for myself. I'm playing it. Not a big deal. Probably go and trade it in if I don't like it, or like I'll beat it and just let it sit on my shelf, and that's not a big deal. But as a kid, I also feel like if you did that with kids, you would have to buy like a separate house just for all their shit.
Yeah, because kids, like, even like as an adult, like, man, I could find millions of little things and spend every penny I have a million times over. But I think like with kids, it's even worse, because like, I mean, they're so susceptible to like, oh, look at this cool new toy or this new action figure TV series that I'm really into, and you're like, you might not even like this next year. So
yeah, and like I feel like we didn't have a lot of N64. I feel like we did okay with the games that we had for the most part, and for some reason Game Boy Advanced and Game Boy Color, I have a lot of really good Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advanced games. They must have been cheaper. Like, it must be somewhere like the parents, like mom was like, I'll buy you this like $40 game. That sounds fair. But can I get this $41 game? And she's like, fuck you for asking me that. You're a stupid piece of shit. God damn it. 40, that's the correct answer, Mick. You're so dumb. Ugh.
And well, since there's 2 of us, it's like, I'm gonna buy this one game and you both get to share it. And how many times did she have to break us up from fighting over a game because you were playing it and I wanted to play it, or I was playing it and you wanted to play it? So it's like, you have a Game Boy, you have a Game Boy, here's each your own game, stop yelling at each other and just shut up for 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's probably a good tactic.
Yeah.
I remember I did play it at a friend's just like you once or twice. I probably borrowed it a couple times on like a weekend here or there. Nothing super crazy. Like, I never owned a copy of the original one. This game definitely was a huge topic of debates in the schoolyards. Which was better, Ocarina of Time or A Link to the Past? We're not going to get into that now. I'll just let that resonate with all of you. Which is better? Because I'll be honest with you, I would have killed someone to make my point of Ocarina of Time is better be known back in the day. My opinion might be better now, or different, you know?
Yeah, I'm probably in a very similar boat, especially since you're like, oh, it's new and the graphics are so good, and then you're like, you look at it now and you're like, ugh.
I like that was a legitimate. Well, Ocarina of Time is 3-dimensional, which means it's better. But then if you look at Twilight Princess, technically it's even more 3-dimensional and it's all clean. I fucking hate Twilight Princess.
Yeah,
so much.
People that argue that graphics makes a better game should be frickin' punched in the head, because just because a game is technically a superior product does not make it a superior product. Like, I was watching a JonTron video and he rated this as #1 most overrated game of all time, and I just want to slap him. It's like JonTron, I generally agree with what you're saying, but for you to say this kind of blasphemy is horrible. He's like, it's not better than Majora's Mask, it's not better than Ocarina of Time, it's not even better than Twilight Princess. And I'm like, my God, man, do you need to get your head hit?
Yeah.
It's like, for him to say, like, Twilight Princess is better than this, you're like, it's not even remote. Like, even the quality, yeah, the graphics is okay, the story's shit, characters aren't interesting, the world's boring as fuck, the dungeons are shit, and you can't even name one interesting character that came out of it. I can name 100 interesting characters that came out of this, or even just like when you see the sprites, you're like, man, I remember that. But
although, I'll be honest with you, I don't know if Twilight Princess is that terrible, because if I had the option of playing that or Skyward Sword, I'd probably play Twilight Princess.
Yeah, well, that's because Skyward Sword is also terrible.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't wait for us to play like those games. It's gonna be a lot of fun because
we're just gonna sit there and bitch at them.
Ugh. I think after Wind Waker, they just kind of just taper off to garbage, eh? Is the Minish Cap after it? Because Minish Cap was good.
Spirit Tracks around the same time for sure.
Spirit Tracks is good.
Okay, minus the portable Zelda titles, because even like
Phantom Hourglass,
Link to Two Worlds or something like that.
Oh, Link Between Worlds. Yeah,
really good.
Yeah, that one is basically just the spiritual sequel of this game. They're like, what if we did it but just made it a little bit better?
Yep.
So, excellent call on the Link Between Worlds. And then also, I guess I could talk about my annual tradition. So every year at the NHL trade deadline, they start showing coverage of the trades that are being made in the National Hockey League at, say, 6 a.m., and they'll run it till like 2 in the afternoon or 3 in the afternoon. Up until, actually even this year, I will typically book the day off work, wake up at 6, get a big thing of Timbits, turn on A Link to the Past, and just have hockey in the background and play through A Link to the Past. So I've done that since 2006. So it's almost 10 years of me doing that annually. So kind of a big deal, this game, to me.
Hockey and Tim Hortons? You really are Canadian.
Oh, it's like the most Canadian day in the world. So I just make sure I say A. Like my character, usually his name is A or something like that too when I play. And
or a boot.
A boot. A boot, come this way. It's funny. All right, so let's get into the game a little bit more, and let's deal with the story.
Hello, friends. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of The Legend of Zelda. In the beginning, there was 3 golden goddesses who came down from the heavens to create the land of Hyrule. And when they left behind a relic called the Triforce. He who holds the Triforce would be granted a great wish. No one could quite find where the Triforce was hidden until a group of cunning thieves, led by Ganondorf Dragmire, found it. The Triforce asked them, "Tell me your wish and I will make it so." Ganon laughed, rose to power, and as the dark clouds invaded the land, the king knew that he had to rely on his 7 brave knights and his 7 wise men to protect the kingdom. Working quickly, the 7 knights, most of them, lost their lives. The 7 wise men, however, were abated enough time to create a seal and to trap Ganon away in a parallel world. Centuries have passed since the Sealing War, and drought, famine, has been brought to the land of Hyrule. The king put out a royal proclamation asking for help, a hand, someone please save us. A mysterious wizard named Aghanim appeared in the land and, using magic that no one had ever seen before, fixed these problems. There was water, wildlife returned to the land. Everyone praise Aghanim! But there was dark rumors that in the Tower Castle, Aghanim was working on something. One night, a girl's voice awakens our hero from his sleep. "Help me, my name is Zelda. I am in the castle dungeon," she telepathically pleads. Link jumps out of bed, knowing whether the voice was part of a dream or reality. Upon leaving his bed, you find your uncle, who should be fast asleep at this time, preparing to go out for battle. "I'll be back in the morning," he says as he departs. Don't leave the house. You watch him leave with your family sword in hand and shield on arm. This is the night like no other. Who is Zelda? Where is your uncle gone and for what reason? And so, on that ill-fated night, a new chapter in the legend of the Hyrule hero begins. A new chapter in the legend of Zelda.
All right. The one thing that the narrator kind of forgot to mention, which I think is kind of neat, is in the manual, again, maybe I'll make that posting online like I said I was going to do last time, but I forgot. Look it up. Just if you Google Link to the Past manual, there's this thing called like manuals.com or something. It's this sweet PDFs that this guy has. Read through it. There's this part where they talk about the Master Sword was created by the Knights as the only way to defeat Ganon. Only someone of the Knight's bloodline can carry it? So that means that you are part of the Knight's bloodline, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's like re-enhances that, and it's like it's actually a pretty good little read. Like I would recommend, even though my storytelling, or I mean the narrator's storytelling abilities are okay, I give it a read. It's fun. It makes me also sad that games now have these big long cutscenes and tutorials, whereas that manual is so adorable. Like go and look at all the little weapons, the little fire rod, so cute.
Yeah. That's one thing that modern games has really gotten away from, and that's the manuals. Like it basically ended with the Xbox One or Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 generation. Because I mean, look at any sort of like newer game like PS4 or Xbox One, and you might not even get a manual.
Well, the manual basically was there because they couldn't tell you what the game was about in the game. So now that they could tell you about what the game was about in the game, they don't really need the manual. So it's kind of, I don't know, it goes hand in hand, right? Like back in the day, if they had the ability, they would have put all this stuff in the games and not made manuals.
Yeah, but there's something just nostalgic about flipping through a book. Like, because you buy it at the store, your mom or dad will be driving you home. First thing you do, you open that thing, you start reading that manual.
Yeah, absolutely. So versus nowadays, you don't get you have to sign on to your Xbox Live and let it load. And,
update.
Stupid. Oh yeah, because the updates, because there's a 747 patch that's come out, and you can't do this, or the X button.
Oh, by the way, we released a broken piece of junk, and we're actually going to have to release a day one patch to fix it. How many times has that happened in the last 4 years? Like,
just don't rush things. Just take your time, breathe, everybody. We're good. All right. So level notes. In introduction, you wake up in bed as a true Super Nintendo protagonist, and you're free to roam the world. Basically until the guards tell you to go back to bed. So being a good boy, you walk back to your bed and you go to sleep. Game over. We did it.
Done.
Just kidding. You're actually greedy. You don't listen to the guards, and you steal your uncle's lamp. Such a little rascal.
A dick.
Heading up to the castle, there's only one way to go. If you uncover one of the bushes, you fall down this underground passage. You see your dead uncle. Get your sword and shield. From here, it's pretty simple. Fight your way through the castle. You collect the boomerang. Save Zelda. You take her through the waterways to the sanctuary, and that's when you learn of the Master Sword. So this game's neat because it starts talking about the Master Sword as this super powerful weapon right off the get-go. So it kind of keeps that anticipation going, like what's going to happen next. Like, I got to get stronger so I can use this Master Sword so I can stop the bad guys,
Yep. You got to save the world.
It's neat. From there, pretty straightforward. What to do. The map system in this game does have kind of little X's, so it can send you where to go. So I think you're supposed to go talk to Sahasrara's grandson, and he says, Grandpa went to the palace, and then you go to the palace. That's the official way to do it. I go to the town and just start getting upgrades.
Yeah, start grabbing as many heart pieces and money and all the little knickknacks and bottles and stuff that you can get.
Yeah, typically there's 2 bottles. There's a net so you can catch fairies, which are helpful.
Very important.
When you die, a fairy will come out of this bottle and just replenish upwards of, I think it's 6 or 7 hearts. So it's kind of just, instead of continuing and dying, it kind of gives you that extra little bit of life. And you can be a little bit more reckless. So do that as soon as possible. You then want to head to the East Palace to go after the first pendant. Oh yeah, because you have to collect 3 pendants so you can unlock the Master Sword.
Yeah, to prove your worth.
Yes. The first palace, super straightforward. Any problems with this one?
Nah, this one's basically muscle memory at this point.
Yeah, good introductory level. Teaches you most of the mechanics, from keys to pushing blocks to killing enemies in a room to unlock it. You do get the bow in this level, and the boss is the Dancing Knights. So again, kind of based on the original Zelda lore, I think the knights are Hyrulean guards that are guarding the pendants. So they're not Ganon's people, they're not the bad guys, they're literally just a Hyrulean obstacle.
Yeah.
So that's kind of...
Yeah, and that's what's really cool about that. It's you're not battling Ganon yet, you're literally just trying to prove that you are... Because I'm assuming the idea is if only a knight, a descendant of the knights, could be able to defeat all 3 of these. Yeah.
Well, I think if you get, or the idea is Zelda has a plan that if she gets the Master Sword, then Aghanim, the evil wizard, will be able to stop with the Master Sword. So your goal basically is just to get the Master Sword for her, and then they were going to find someone who can wield it.
Fair enough.
So they're it might be you. Be honest with you,
probably not.
It was I contacted your uncle because I knew he was kind of cool, but now he's dead, so I'm hoping you have the same blood as your uncle. Hoping it was one of those relationships,
Yeah.
So you kill the knights, you go talk to Sahasrara, and you get the Pegasus boots, so ability basically to sprint across the screen.
Yep.
Very nice.
Very handy, especially for if you're getting... Because this game actually does have a large kind of speed running following. So
absolutely.
If you get those Pegasus boots, they're pretty clutch.
Yeah, so one of the things I've seen is if there's a pit that you can't get across, you can sometimes speed dash into a block, and as long as you're close enough, you can actually get bumped across the gap or the pit. And it can save you some time, right?
It's you place a bomb down, and then you try to time it right. So you basically charge. You do your Pegasus boots charge into the wall, and as you're bouncing, essentially because you're bouncing in the air, the bomb will send you across that gap, and you're like, oh, sick! Now I don't have to run around like an idiot and try to get there.
Very nice.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I honestly didn't even know that until I kind of started like looking into a little bit more into the speed running, and yeah, that's such a key thing. It's all about timing, though. It's hard. I suck at it.
Yeah, I could see that because I was looking. Speed runs are about an hour and a half of this game. So
yeah.
But like to beat this game in whole, like if you were to follow like a guide and go through it, my 6.5 hours is okay, but I think I could be a little faster. I wasn't as crisp as I would like to be on some of the levels. So
yeah,
which is weird though because I beat this game literally 2 months ago.
I think it's one of those things where it's like once you kind of get used to the whole the idea of like kind of like speed running's about like kind of taking shortcuts when you can. So a lot of like speed runs are like, oh, I can beat this in like 45 minutes, and like, yeah, because you're glitching your way through it. Yeah. The one I like to follow is the no major glitches, but you do use like bombs to skip through dungeons.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's just like little things like that. You can do it like legitimately, but I don't know what the estimated time is if you do it right, because there's some dungeons that you're like, yeah, we just got to really grab like 2 keys and the boss, or the big key, 3 keys, and then you basically grab the weapon, skip a couple little spots by cheating, and then you're away.
Yeah, that's fair. Yep. So after we beat level 1, really important that we do a little bit of collecting again. So you make sure you go get the magic book from the library in town. Yep. And at this point, I grabbed the ice rod too, just because it's one of those items you can get right at the beginning. You literally don't need the ice rod until the very last boss of the game.
Yeah, kind of. It's just easier to get it now.
Well, and just like open world Zelda games, it's just such a turn on after playing knowing that Skyward Sword exists. I'm like, that's cool. This is an item that literally doesn't do anything. You can just play around with it for no reason.
Yep.
No one. So from here we go to the Desert Palace.
Yeah.
This playthrough is actually, I went probably the wrong way for the very first time in maybe like 4 years on this level. I was like, I forget which door I went, and there's like a left or right option, and I went left. Apparently right's the way you're supposed to go, so interesting.
This is actually one of those ones where you need to do a little bit of exploring before you can even get into it, because you got to get yourself the book.
Yeah.
And as a kid, I had no idea that we're supposed to get the book, so
yeah.
That was a fun.
You get the
book. I think this is where we got stuck on our very first. When I was playing it with my buddy the very first time.
Okay. Well, this is one of those ones where you have to, the book's on the top shelf of the library, and you have to use the Pegasus boots to knock it off. So it's, now that you have the key, now you can unlock this item. And what does the book do? It unlocks the next level. So rather than being like an arbitrary key or something, it's just, that's how you unlock this level. The item in the Desert Palace is the Power Glove, because everything in the 90s used the Power Glove. Feel the power.
It's so bad.
Yeah. With it, you can head into kind of the second part of the dungeon. Nothing special here. And the boss is the 3 worms that come out of the ground. Pretty easy. I just kind of do like a sword spin, my spin attack, and then as soon as they start coming out, like wait 2 seconds, and then spin, and as they come out, you hit them for like major damage. So.
Yep. Pretty straightforward.
Before I go to the Death Mountain, I like to collect again. Make sure I have the magic powder, the 3rd bottle, and the flippers, so that they're not necessary, but they just kind of help the progression a little bit in the game. So,
yep.
Does the name Death Mountain make you want to curl up in a fetal position from Zelda 2, or are you okay?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, Death Mountain's the worst part of so many Zelda games.
This one's not terrible. So basically, you climb through some caves, you find an old man, you check yourself out with a mirror, and you become a bunny. That's Death Mountain.
Basically.
It takes you almost like a direct route right to the Tower of Hera, which is the 3rd place, or the 3rd level where you're going to find a pendant. This is kind of tricky. There's some tiles that move up and down based on a colored switch. Oh, look at that beautiful power in that NES, or that Super Nintendo. It's just lovely.
Yeah.
Trial and error, you should be able to figure this place out. The puzzle that gets you the Moon Pearl is important because when you go into Dark World as is, you become a bunny guy and you can't use any equipment. With the Moon Pearl, however, you can stay in your true form in the Dark World. So that's important to get.
Yep.
And the boss, oh god, did you use a save state? Oh, I forgot to ask. How are you playing this game? What?
I actually have the legitimate cartridge.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. It's actually like you bought me that for Christmas, and I've just been.
And Mega Man 2, right?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I use that, and this boss is a freaking bitch, because you know how many times I've been kicked out of that, where you just get knocked out and you gotta start again. It's like.
Yeah, so basically he's a giant worm that moves around on this little tiny platform. When you hit him, it's fine, but if you hit him with in the head with your sword, you bounce back, and if you fall off the pit, you fall into the floor in the bottom level, and you have to start all over again.
Yeah. Did you ever kill him and then accidentally fall off the ledge before?
I have in several playthroughs, yes.
Yeah, that's nothing worse.
Right now I'm playing it on my Wii U, so I have the gamepad and I can just do save states right there. So
nice.
Thank God for save states.
Word.
Yeah. Then once we have the 3 pendants, there's really nothing for us to do. Let's go to the Lost Woods and find the Master Sword in its grove.
Yes, and listen to these amazing epic tunes that just set the stage.
Yeah, it is very epic, and it sounds really good. And I mean, it makes sense that they invested so heavily in the music, because it just helps with the atmosphere of the overall game, right? So
yeah, definitely sets it.
Unfortunately, now I have a lot of games that I call podcast games. So like this, Final Fantasy 1, basically any game we've played thus far, I'm listening to a podcast when I play it. Right, 6.5 hours. I listen to a bunch of fantasy football podcasts. I got kind of primed for this one by listening to a Zelda podcast. So unfortunately, I don't really go back and listen to the music, which is a shame, because the music's pretty amazing.
Yeah, even with Final Fantasy 1, some of those tunes are just iconic. But then there's some times where you're just I just want to put this on mute and do anything else. So
yeah,
there's some songs that are just terrible.
But you know what's the worst thing happens? As soon as we pull out the Master Sword, guess what? Aghanim's men hit the sanctuary and kidnap Zelda again. What are the odds of it happening exactly at that point? So, back to the castle to rescue the kidnapped Princess Zelda, just like the beginning. Weird.
Yes. Yeah. Slightly different, though.
So, we're going to storm the castle again with our new arsenal. We'll break the barrier with our sword. And if you have full health with the Master Sword, you shoot a sword beam, so you can clean house in this area.
Yeah, and if you have kind of full health with those beams, they're so handy. And it's just nice. You can kill somebody from across the room.
I've heard one of the really cool things that people don't admire in this game as much is right from the beginning. We save Zelda, and they're like, dude, you need to get the Master Sword. That'll make you stronger. You're fighting the same enemy throughout basically the first 3 levels, and then all of a sudden you get the Master Sword. Now you're shooting sword beams. Guys are only taking 1 hit instead of 2 to kill. You feel super powerful. And you're like, man, I'm going to go save Zelda. This is going to be great. We get to the top and we fight Aghanim. Aghanim is a wizard. Really simple. He shoots kind of energy balls at you. You just reflect them back at him.
Yep.
Basically, you kill him by bouncing balls at him. Just like insert bad NBA player's name here. That is such a witty, topical joke.
Haha.
I wrote that in my notes, and I clearly didn't write up NBA player, so I was like, well, suck it, Sean Kemp.
Ah, nice.
Why don't you have some more kids? Use a condom.
Man, oh shit.
So as soon as you kill him, big twist in the game, shock, even though I guess we've already talked about it, you go to Dark World.
Yep.
And that's kind of the big twist. So now all of a sudden everything takes 3 hits with your Master Sword, and that's one of the really cool things in this game, where it's you're going to get this big powerful item. Here it is. They keep talking it up. You finally get it, and you only maybe have 20 minutes with this item kicking ass before they reset everything, and they're like, dude, you got a lot of growth left to go.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. They build you up, because you're like, oh, well, obviously got to storm the mountain, save the princess. It's pretty easy. I'm going to wrap this game. And then you're like, oh, now I got to beat this entire Dark World. And it's like, yeah, and the Dark World's hard. The Dark World's the actual difficulty in this.
Yep. So as soon as we get into Dark World, if you're not too overwhelmed and too scared and have to turn the game off and cry, you can go right to Palace 1. Literally, just move right and you'll get to Palace 1.
Yep.
Make sure you have 100 rupees to pay the bunkie so you can get into the palace, Dark Palace. Oh, it is 110. I had 105 or 107, and I didn't. And I had to grinding for money in this game is just unnecessary. It's not fun.
Very, yeah.
Dark Palace. right at the beginning, if you go to either the left or right path, each one will give you a couple keys.
Yep.
I'd recommend going that way too. It just makes the level a little bit cleaner. You get the magic hammer in this level, which allows you to flip over the little turtles. And the boss here is the Helmasaur King. He was really tough for some reason on this playthrough. So I used that magic hammer to smash his helmet, and then he's that big glowing gem. I think in the past, historically, I just hit him with my sword. This time I decided I would try my arrows. Doesn't work that well.
Yeah.
But I thought I heard somewhere like one arrow will kill him. So it's almost better to try that, but that's not the case.
Yeah, no, bombs and the hammer and the sword.
Yeah. Off to Palace 2, the Swamp Palace. I go right to the palace. There's no real stops you need to do. I avoid a lot of the beginner's traps. So there's lots of like trick floors, or if you don't do this in this order, you'll have to like go the long way around. I know a lot of those things, so I got the hook shot like ASAP.
Yeah.
Then I did something a little different. I said, bye-bye Palace 2, and I went and collected literally every other item in the game.
Nice.
So from there, you can get into the Dark Kakariko Village. I went to level 4, I got the Titan's Mitt, beat the whole level 4, and was then able to keep going through. So how do you want to talk about the playthrough at this point? Because we can kind of go level by level and stick more to your notes, or I can just tell you about how literally I just went and collected all the items at this point.
I did sort of similar thing. I did the way I did it is like you do Skull Woods first.
No, but you need the hook shot to get there.
Yeah. You do this one, and then you do that, and then you do the Ice Palace.
Yeah. So here, I'll finish off my notes. Level 2, pretty straightforward. I think I only made 2 wrong turns. It made the level stupidly short, and the boss of level 2 was a big squid and puffballs. Simple. So now the big collectathon. So you go to the Skull Woods first. Perfect?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So did you find... See, the first part is kind of get the Master Key, get the Fire Rod, and then it's the next part, like when you go to the big skull where you kind of use the Fire Rod to blow your way into the door. Did you have a key?
I don't remember.
I didn't have a key for the first time ever. So in the first part of the game, I've always collected a key somewhere, and I missed it somehow. And I had to like go underneath that first little bridge. I'd never been there before. It was kind of neat. Like there's parts of this game I've just never seen.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about this game is there's like all these like little nooks and crannies that you're like, I didn't even realize you could blow up that wall.
Yeah. The Forest Maze, any other real interesting notes about this one?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, I'm assuming.
Yeah, there was there's these wall masters that come from the ceiling that pick you up and take you back to the entrance. Yeah. I literally had one hit me as I was going to fall down to fight the boss.
Brutal.
Yeah, I was like, that is just unnecessary. Come on, guys.
This is actually one of those levels that you can kind of skip a lot of it just by being cheeky and using that bomb jump technique.
Okay. Well, I guess, because, yeah, you could do that. You could literally jump right over the first part, right? Like, you wouldn't have to do the whole blowing up the wall.
Yep.
Huh.
And because you could, like, it's like you walk in and you kind of see the treasure chest, and there's kind of 2 little kind of gaps on either side or whatever.
Yeah.
If you line yourself up, like, really close to the edge and then place a bomb and do, like, you hit the wall, then you'll, like, as you bounce, you just scoot across it and be like, sweet, got it, gone.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Nice. This one, the big boss man is a big butterfly.
Whose heart is all get out.
Yeah, I usually just kill it with fire and then hit it with my sword, and it's not too bad. Knowing that I have my half magic already,
yes,
as well as I have the level 3 sword when I played this.
Yeah, same here. You got like that half magic. I suck at my magic management, so like getting that half magic just helps.
Yeah. So from here, pretty much on the same level, this is where I collect everything in the game. So again, right below the level 4, the forest, is Kakariko Village. In there you can find the Thief's Dungeon, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
In here you will find the Titan's Mitt. You can lift super heavy objects. It basically opens up the rest of the world map.
Thieves Town. That's what it's called.
Okay, Thieves Town. So it's pretty simple. At one point, you find a girl. You think you find the maiden who's not captured, and she says, we better go outside. If you take her to the entrance, she's like, oh, no, not this way. I don't want to go this way. Let's go a different way. And you'll never be able to leave the dungeon again since she's following you. So the way to do this is there's kind of a room with a bombable wall or roof. if you blow it up and go in there, there's sunlight. She's actually a monster in disguise, and she says, "Oh, I hate sunlight," and then turns into the monster for you to fight.
Yeah, turns into blind.
Blind. Really simple. Just keep moving around, avoid the fireballs. Should give you no problem.
Oh yeah, this is actually one of the more easy bosses I find.
Yeah, unless you're stupid like me and you beat the whole dungeon and then went out somewhere else and realized that you hadn't collected the Titan's Mitt yet and had to go all the way back through the dungeon to get it. Like, god damn it.
Yeah, that would basically just reset it.
And one of the big notes I wanted to make here that I figured out after the fact was, if you want a quick warp to the entrance of any level, pull out your mirror and it will teleport you back to the entrance. So it acts as a little warp rather than like saving your game, starting in Dark World, going all the way back to the start of the level. Just pull your mirror out. Saves a ton of time.
Yeah. And another trick is, like, there's not a lot of heart drops. So if you have the magic powder and there's these little, like, kind of
anti-fairies
kind of floating around, if you actually throw the magic powder on them, it will give you a fairy. So if you're like kind of hurting, just kind of walk in and out of a room a couple times.
I didn't know that until a couple years ago, and it makes all the difference in the world.
Especially in a dungeon, because like in a dungeon, there's been so many times where you're just like, man, I could do anything for a heart drop right now.
Yeah, well, that's why, like, before I go to Death Mountain, I make sure I get the magic potion or the magic powder, because there's so many magic or anti-fairies in every dungeon. It's just like you always get life. It's great.
And if you're at half magic, just to literally be like, even if you miss it like 1 or 2 or 3 times, you're like, it's worth it getting that fairy. And same with the little glowy thing that turns you into a rabbit. I think they're called like something beans or something like that.
I did that accidentally actually on this playthrough. So nice.
Yeah.
So from here, what else do I do? Just south of town, there's a little frog dude that you can save with the Titan's Mitt, and he's actually one of the blacksmiths in the Light World. So if you go to the blacksmith's house, return him to the Light World, reunite him with his partner, he'll temper your sword from the Master Sword level 2 to level 3 sword. I guess they call it like what do blacksmiths?
I would just called it like the tempered sword or whatever.
That's it, temper. They temper your sword. That's stupid. Mick can't think of those things.
I think you literally just said temper and then blanked on it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was like, I literally just said that. Oops. In that house, there is also a treasure chest that if you take it and you go to take it to the thief, who's kind of sitting down by like the desert area, he'll open the chest for you and give you the 4th bottle of the game. What else we got? Then I get the first medal or the medallion in the game. That's kind of like the magic spell.
Yeah.
You can go get the flute from one of the groves in the kind of just by the town.
Yeah, because you talk to the little guy, he gives you the shovel.
Yeah.
You go back to the Light World.
Yeah.
Dig it up. Good to go.
Go to
now
the
you
town.
Can teleport.
Go to the town. Play it for this little duck statue. The duck shows up to fly you around. Opens up a lot more of the game for you. Plus makes traveling just super easy.
Yeah. And now, like, as you kind of like right about now, you start to feel like, oh, okay, now I'm kind of getting a little bit more powerful. Now I'm kind of getting my my bearings. So yeah, this is like, it's kind of nice. Like at this point, you feel like kind of like a boss, and then you end up in the Ice Palace, and everything gets worse.
Ugh. Well, unless you're smart like me and use my strategy. At some point, I also get my level 3 sword back. I don't know exactly like where in the sequence I got it, but I have the flute. I then go to Death Mountain. I collect the magic cape, as well as I get the cane that stops you from being hurt, and I also collect the last 2 medallions. So that's as well as I upgrade my boomerang and my shield. So I literally am maxed out at this point. I have all the collectible items in the world, minus some heart pieces, but I don't need full heart. So pretty simple. So then at this point, I beat levels 1, 2, 3, and 4, as well as I have most of the items. I have to ask myself a question. Do I value cheating or do I value defense? What do you value?
Cheating.
I value cheating too. So I go to level 6 before level 5.
Yeah.
Why? Because you get the Cane of Sarnia that creates a little block for you, which makes one of the more complicated puzzles in the Ice Palace moot. So
yeah, and anything to make the Ice Palace a little bit easier is a good idea in my books, because it's like this game's water temple. It's the worst.
Yeah. Well, so the I think it's called like the something grotto or something like that. Like the whatever the swamp level's called, or Palace 6.
Couldn't get Swamp Palace.
I couldn't get started in here. I had no idea where to go. Once I found the door that was right beside me, it wasn't too bad. I forgot to get the magical cane. I had a real hard time with collecting the items in this game, apparently. I felt really forgetful, actually, on this whole playthrough, so I don't know what was going on. And the boss was a big eyeball that shot thunder. Or I guess shot lightning. You don't shoot thunder. Thunder is a sound. You shoot lightning at you. On my way to the level 5, in the middle of Lake Hylia, there is a fairy fountain that you can throw money into, and you can upgrade whether it's your bombs or your arrows. You can kind of choose, and it's just so you don't end up being capped out with money with nothing to do with it. I'm looking at you, Ocarina of Time.
What, you don't want to just go fishing forever?
Well, no, because if you collect all the gold skeletas, you get an unlimited, 100 rupee refill. What the hell are you going to spend 100 rupees on?
Especially at that point in the game.
Yeah, well, the only thing that would make sense if you had, magical armor like they had in Twilight Princess that ran on money, you could, get fuel for your armor.
Yeah, you'd think, but... Ocarina of Time maybe not that glorious game that everybody likes to make it out to be.
Like it needs to be revisited and critically thought a little bit, so...
Possibly.
So, Palace 5, I took the exact route through this level, so it was a breeze.
Yeah, I tried, and I still struggled with this thing. There's a few spots where you have to, kind of pixel bomb your way across, gaps the guide I was following. And I kept fucking those up, and it got really frustrating. Especially since, you slide all the fucking time, and it kills me.
Yeah, I was gonna write, this level is slippery. And there is, a big main enemy, the Skeleton Knight, so you have to hit with your sword, plant a bomb, kill them. That's, I would say, the highlights of this level for me. And lots of beginner traps. So beginner traps they'll offer you 2 doors, left or right. If you take left, the door will close, you have to beat a bunch of enemies, and it'll, lead you around to that room you were just in, whereas right is the right way to go.
Yeah.
So if you know the beginner traps, you go right, you avoid 5 minutes of just wasting your time.
Yeah, which makes it a little bit easier because there's some bad guys that can take off a huge chunk of your health, even though you do have lots of life or heart containers at this point.
Yeah. From here, though, we do get the blue mail, so that cuts our defense or the damage we take in half. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cheating component that I was talking about. So right before the end of the level, there's a switch that needs to be hit. And the way you do this is you have to... Those color switches that go either red or blue, and they kind of move the tiles up and down. You need to hit them in a correct sequence. You can hit a block in the room above, push it down a floor, go back, hit the switch, and then go down into the basement.
Yeah, this is the part where, there's this one room that has just basically a swinging kind of snake to it that's attached to a block or whatever, or just a fire thing that's just spinning, and it's kind of blocked by the one switch, so you have to switch it the other way. But if you do that, then you have to go through the whole other thing. If you kind of stand on the top left of the corner, there's kind of a little gap. If you actually can see no pixels, 1 pixel, 2 pixel, 1 pixel or 2 pixels or 3 pixels, then you can actually bomb across. I kept getting 4, not quite being close enough, and then I always end up just sliding in because it's a little. I think the floor is slippery, and it was so frustrating just to try to skip that one part. I was like, this is not worth my time, but it is in all reality.
All right, yeah. So my way, I would say, is a little bit easier because literally you can just walk straight into the room with the switch, drop a block with your cane, put it on the switch, the door opens, and you can leave. So from there. There's a big ice ball in ice. Hit it with fire. Now, I think I tried to read most of it in case the maidens or anyone said something the text in the game said something interesting. Really, nothing of interest other than what this maiden says to you. So she says that these current batch of maidens are the last blood of the original 7 wizards or sages, and you're the last blood of the night. We should mix them together to make the kingdom of Hyrule strong again. So basically, she's coming on to you.
Yeah, and it's yo, you should hook up with me and all these other girls.
Yeah, and we could all have a kid, and then, the bloodline will stay strong, because you're basically the last of it. If you die, we're fucked.
Yeah.
So I kind of think, based on where this game is, well, it doesn't really make sense to the timeline, but basically she's soliciting herself to you.
Yep.
So, good job, Link. You're going to do very well for yourself in this world, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, from there, I will go right to Turtle Rock because I don't really have to collect anything. Head right to Death Mountain again. Go to Turtle Rock. I've actually already unlocked the front door, so I just basically go inside. I do usually have a magic refill at me at this point because in the past I have had it to the point where I run out of magic in this level, and it's really annoying. Yeah, nothing. I don't know. There's only, I would say, one really tough room in this whole palace, but basically otherwise it's just muscle memory and kind of work my way through it. So
yeah, as long as you know where you're going, it doesn't seem to be too bad.
And the only tough part is there's this one room where you're on this little, you could create your own little platform that floats around on this track. You have to get to the center of the room where there's a switch. They use the Cane of Sornia to put a block on it, and if you're not listening to the music, you can't really tell exactly when the switch is turned on. So oftentimes I put my block down, walk away, the switch isn't activated, and have to go all the way back, and that's really frustrating.
I can see how that would be just like a pain in the ass. It's like just like falling down and redoing everything all over again.
Yeah, like it's just annoying. So basically at this point I'll pause the podcast, turn on the music, listen to it, hear the switch open. Okay, now I can go to the end. Makes it very, very easy, especially that magic powder trick with those anti-fairies. There's so many goddamn anti-fairies in here. Like, my life was always completely full. So
yeah, which is nice because I mean, being able to use your beam sword, a godsend.
Yeah, absolutely. We do get the what's it called, mirror shield in this level. So it's this giant shield. Like, you can't even see Link anymore when he's turned to the camera because the shield is so giant. It reflects beams, and the boss of this level is the triple-headed dragon. You need both the fire and ice rod to beat him. So if you didn't at the beginning of the game or any other point collect the ice rod because it doesn't tell you anywhere in the level to do it, you're doomed.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like, it would have been nice to be like a little, have to use the ice rod or the fire rod to get into it. So it's like, oh, okay, I need both. Or if, at that point, so you don't get to the bad guy and be like, well, this sucks. Now I got to go all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah, and if you ever listen to anything I say, and you take one advice, take out the ice head first of this boss. Yeah. Makes it super easy because when he shoots out his ice breath, he'll actually freeze the floor and make it slippery. And the last thing you need is while you're trying to dodge a giant snake that's coming after you, is the floor to be slippery.
Basically, because the sliding mechanic, it just makes everything so much more difficult, and especially if you don't have perfect controls.
Yeah, and then I had this weird epiphany in this room where I pulled out the invincibility rod and turned it on, so it wasn't hurting me, and I could just keep standing beside it and slashing it with my sword. Made this boss super easy. So I don't know why I don't use the invincibility rod more when playing this game.
Yeah, well, it comes down to if you have the magic to support it, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if I walk in with an extra magic bottle, I should be fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I mean, not that the game's that tough without it, but it just is that much simpler. From here, you can head over just a couple of screens from Turtle Rock to Ganon's Tower, and it's the last level of the game. So, are you guys ready for it? It's almost over.
Storm the final castle.
Yeah, it's kind of in the same place where Hera's Tower is in Light World. Super easy. I just go down the left door, collect a key, never unlock a door. That would be my advice in this part, is keep as many keys as possible, and you'll end up with like an extra 1 or 2 keys at the end of the palace. So
yeah, and if you don't have to do all that unnecessary exploring, you don't really need to at that point. There's no like, oh, I gotta get the ultimate weapon or a really good item. It's like you have everything, so let's just go kill Ganon, call her a day.
Yeah, so here we get the red mail.
Start making some maiden babies.
Yeah, we get the red mail, which cuts our original defense into 1/4. So you're only taking a quarter of the original defense you were taking. So that's huge. Like, you're a walking little tank at this point. Then you start making, once you collect the red mail, that's kind of the basement section. You basically just head up. It's just a kind of a long grind. They throw lots of enemies at you. There's a boss rush to do. You kind of get an understanding of how buffed up you are by how easily you are able to take out some of the enemies.
Especially kind of one after another.
Yeah, there is one annoying area where there's an invisible floor. You have to use Ether. It's one of your magic spells that will shock all the enemies in the room, and it lights up the room just enough so you can see for maybe like a second where the tiles are. So you have to use it, 5 or 6 times to kind of make it through this winding floor tiles. That's irritating.
Yeah, it's kind of unnecessary, especially since, but like at that point, that's kind of the only real difficulty. Yeah. Minus because when you're taking a quarter of the damage, as long as you're playing carefully and you got some fairies, you should be able to make it through no problem.
Yes. You fight Moldor, so that big, the the big worm that knocks you off the platforms, he returns.
Yeah.
If you use the invincibility rod, it's super easy to fight him. So again, I think I've kind of broken the game a little bit when my brain was like, why don't you use your magic rods a little bit more? And I was like, oh man, that's so easy. So
Yeah.
it's great. And that's it. Basically, we're off to the boss of this part. Aghanim, we fight him again. He's got Aghanim and his two little shadow friends, which I think's easier than the first time you fight him.
Yeah, it's also kind of due to the fact that, like, when he does hit you, you're like, oh, you don't do shit all for damage.
Yeah, well, and plus he has, because there's 3 little magic balls coming towards you, you can knock them back, and every ball that hits the real Aghanim hurts him for damage. So he has, like, if he has, like, 10 hits, you can have him done in, like, almost 3 turns if all 3 balls hit him every single time. So based on how they line up in the room, makes it really simple. And then spoilers, guys. Big spoilers coming up here. Aghanim is actually Ganon. What? Oh, so apparently that mysterious wizard that came and solved all of Hyrule's power or problems and became a high-ranking official in the land, he was a bad guy.
All along? Who
Yep.
knew?
I actually legitimately did not get that until I read the manual yesterday, what the story was supposed to be.
Yeah, I just thought, like, he was just, like, a ghost or something.
Yeah, or like he was his friend and like Ganon lived inside of him. Because basically Aghanim falls to the ground and this like big like shadow Ganon comes out of him. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. He turns into a bat and flies away. So we call our duck. Our duck comes and flies and grabs us. And we fly after him to the Great Pyramid.
Then you jump into it.
No! What are you doing?
No.
You don't jump into it. You got to get ready first.
Oh.
So before you jump in there, make sure, well, unless your walkthrough says something differently. I grab a couple flute.
I was doing for time.
Okay. I grab a couple blue potions. So I get a couple blue potions, which restore your health and your magic. Go back to your house in Dark World and grab the big bomb, which unlocks the fat fairy fountain. She gives you the silver arrows as well as the level 4 sword. So now you're completely pimped out. There's nothing more you can do. I mean, I guess you could collect rubies at this point and try and get more arrows and bombs. But other than that, I think we have all the equipment we need.
More than.
Then we can go fight Ganon.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I think he takes something like 20 hits. So based on how fast you hit him, actually will determine kind of the length of this fight. Watch out for his projectiles. He shoots throws his trident of power at you or little flame bats.
That's the worst.
At about the halfway point, he starts jumping, knocking out the candles and knocking out the tiles around the edge of the room. Be very careful, because if you fall down the tiles, like if you fall off the edge, you have to restart the battle all over again.
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
Yeah, it's kind of irritating. So, but if you're like semi-competent and you can use your flame rods to relight the candles, get a shot in on Ganon. He turns blue, hit him with a silver arrow, and after 3 of those, he's dead. And you get to watch the credits.
Yeah.
Did you watch
ending?
Did you watch all the credits?
I walked away. You can save afterwards.
Yeah, but you have to like hit B to make all the credits like scroll up, because the Triforce will come and talk to you and like tell you exposition, and you have to sit there and like manually hit the button, or else it gets stuck there. But you watch the credits, you kind of find in kind of like a Super Mario World, they kind of show you where all the characters are and like what they're all doing. So that's kind of fun.
That's kind of a nice little wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, no one does anything super interesting, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But you do learn that the Master Sword will sleep again forever.
Yeah, so they say.
You get some final stats. Did you write down the final stats of the game that you have?
No, but I died a few times.
So I got total games played as a stat at the end. Is that how many times I turned on the game and saved? Is that what that's supposed to mean?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Like, that's what I was thinking. So, like, all those times I saved, went to the start of the level, it counted as, like, another, like, as a playthrough, I guess? So, ideally, you'd want to have 1 if you only ever played it once, right?
Yeah.
Or if you're in a situation where you're using an emulator and you could just make a save state, pick it up, and keep playing from that point, then you wouldn't really have to worry about it. So, there they go. A Link to the Past. How exciting is that?
It's awesome. It's a great game.
Current thoughts. Amazing.
Yeah, very good. I think it's held up very well, especially since, like, you can either beat it, like, the legitimate way, you can speed run your way through it, you can kind of cheat and get your way, like, get some stuff early. And honestly, it's just, like, it's a fun game. It's tight. It's got, I always think, like, some of the best soundtrack, very immersive. I love the world to run around in it. I think that like the dark world's super cool. They basically take this happy little go lucky little like, oh, look at all these bunnies and stuff hanging out, and then you're like, you go to the dark world, it's like, oh wow, this is all terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. Yeah, I mean, if my annual playthrough of this game doesn't let you know how I feel, I love this game. Like, it's great. So
absolutely.
So I guess to finish up, we've got a little "Are you buying it?"
Oh, nice.
Nice. Ready for this one?
Yeah.
A Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time are the exact same story, but just told to two different generations. Same structure and the same villain. So, are you buying that? Are you buying that Ocarina of Time is just a retelling of A Link to the Past, but basically it's just the same, it's like the same adventure just being retold a different way?
Yeah, basically it's like the exact same structure. You wake up, you have to go through like a little mini thing.
You get three pendants, and then you get the Master
then
Sword.
Shit happens.
Yeah. Then you go to a different like alternate universe that's ruled by Ganon, that's dark, and you have to collect 5 pendants or whatever it is, and then fight him.
And there's even flipping back between like the light world and the dark world to progress in both, or in the dark world. Yeah.
Yep. So before the Zelda timeline became a theory of debate, because really at that point there was only 5 games in the series when Ocarina of Time came out. So I mean, more than likely they could have literally just been telling a different tale of the Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, basically. And in all honesty, it's like if it broke, why fix it? Or if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
'Cause, like the story works really good. It's tight. It kind of gives you that. Here's the Act 1. Here's kind of like and then you get to go into like Act 2, and then Act 3 is when everything kind of like shit hits the fan.
Yep. All right. So you're buying it. Me too.
Yeah. Especially since this game's far superior to Ocarina of Time. So.
Oh shit! Ocarina of Time, suck it. All right. How about Aghanim is supposed to be a Sheikah. If you look at any pictures of him, he has the lens of truth on his robes. He has ties to the royal family, and between Impa and Sheik, they tell us that the Sheikahs were like this shadow people that used this like shadow magic, and there was a falling out with the royal family where the royal family betrayed them and ran them out of their land. So was Aghanim impersonating as a Sheikah, was that the inciting incident to make this tie between the Sheikahs and the royal family happen?
Could have been. It's kind of tough to say because I mean I don't really know too much about the whole like Sheikah history or anything, but I mean if that's kind of like this. Forget how the timeline goes. Is it this then Ocarina of Time?
No, Ocarina of Time is the inciting incident with the 3 branching pathways. A Link to the Past is on the same branch as Zelda 1 and Zelda 2.
Oh, okay. It's tough to say.
Yeah. I think I'm... So basically the questions are you a... Ocarina of Time is supposed to be a different telling, or is it the same telling? So if you think it's a different telling, then absolutely the Sheikah, like Aghanim was kind of the Sheikah inciting incident.
Yeah.
Or if you think they're both just the same story, that's impossible for that to happen. So
yeah.
So I basically, which are you buying? Are you buying that every Legend of Zelda game is just kind of a different telling of this same story, or is it there's a definitive timeline that Nintendo's trying to make us buy into that just wasn't made up one day?
I'm gonna say that each game was its own little thing, and they're trying to tell like kind of a retelling of the story, just like how Star Fox is the same game, but they've released it 5 times.
Yep. Well, you have to fight Andross. Come on, Andross sucks.
Ugh.
All right.
Great game, terrible story.
Now, I've got a big one for us here. This is the definitive. We'll keep this going every time we play a Zelda game. We're gonna have a battle royale of Links. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
All right. So we have Link 1, Link 2, and a Link to the Past Link, all fighting off to see who's the most powerful Link. We can let our fans vote, or because we don't have any fans.
This is us voting?
Yeah, we'll just vote. So, I'll be honest with you, Link 1 doesn't count.
Yeah, he's a weak bitch.
Link 1 is 6 years younger than Link 2, so in theory, Link 2 can use all the same skills, attributes, has the same equipment, and who couldn't beat up a 6-year younger version of themselves?
True enough.
Right? Like, unless
you're like, a 40 or like a 96-year-old trying to fight a 90-year-old or something like that.
Yeah, even then, I feel like both of them kind of suck. Like, but
That's true.
if you're taking the 16-year-old version of me and putting it up against 10-year-old version of me, like 16-year-old is winning.
Yeah.
And then 22-year-old version of me versus 16-year-old version of me. 22-year-old is going to win.
Crush you every time.
Yeah. Could I beat up 22-year-old version of myself right now?
As a 28-year-old? That's tough to say. I feel like when you're in your 20, from like 20 or from like almost like 19 to like 23, 24, you're kind of in your physical peak.
Yeah.
So it's just like, as you kind of get, like, if it was on the tail end, like in Zelda 1, he's like 18 years old, and then he's trying to fight a 20, or like he's like, let's say 20 years old trying to fight a 26-year-old. That's, you're splitting hairs at that point. But.
Yeah, but like I would say I'm a lot stronger. Like 22, I think that was a year I ran a lot, and I was running whatever my 7 miles a day. But like now I'm like way stronger, so I'm thinking like I might have more endurance, but I'm like, the strength I have right now, I don't think I could overcome myself at this point. So
yeah, it's one of those things where it's like
too many curls for girls right now. My arms are just like rock hard. So
yeah.
So
also you're more experienced.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where like as a young kid you end up acting out just pure like raw instinct as opposed to acting out of experience.
Oh man, I hope they invent time travel soon so we can prove these. I'm just gonna go back in time and fight my younger version of myself.
It's gonna beat up a 10-year-old version of yourself. Take that, young me.
Oh, if I ever win $52 million, I'm gonna pay 105-year-olds to try and fight me to see if they can overcome me. At like what point was the tides too great? So I'm gonna get a bunch of parents, give each kid like $5,000, get the parents to sign off on like a waiver form, like whatever happens in that 10 minutes is totally legal. Maybe put some punching gloves on, and then have them all try and attack me. And like tell them all, like, you guys don't get $5,000 if you don't beat me up. So like they're vicious. Like give them a bunch of juice. They're all just hyped up. Because I wonder how many of them I could beat up before they'd like overtake me.
Man, 100 kids is a shit ton.
I know, but I'm really strong and I can punch them right in their stupid heads.
Well, that's the thing. It's like as long as you stay on, like, I feel like in that battle, I know we've gotten really off topic here, but I feel like in that battle of you versus 110-year-olds, as long as you can kind of dominate the first 5 minutes of it, you're gonna have group mentality, and they're gonna hesitate, and that's what's gonna give you the edge.
Yeah, but what if I get tired? Like I feel like after punching 5-year-olds in the head for 10 minutes, like what if or like 5 minutes? What if I'm tired?
I feel like it'd basically be like almost one punch per kid.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Or,
like,
or less than one punch
Yeah.
per kid. Because like even if you throw like a little kick to a kid's guts, that kid's going to hit the ground like a fucking ton of bricks and not going to get up.
Wonder if I get like a fight sanction to like sign off on that. So
Probably not.
I really,
You're not allowed to.
If there
you have to be like 16 years old.
If there is a
bullshit
god,
about it.
he will make sure I never win $52 million because he knows I will waste it on stupid things. So.
Yeah.
But think of their education. He's like, oh, how'd you go to university? Oh, I fought this millionaire when I was a 5-year-old.
Beat the piss out of them.
Yeah, so only slightly off topic. Oh, so back to our Battle Royale. So basically, we're putting A Link to the Past versus Zelda 2. Make sense?
Yeah, how old is Link in Link to the Past?
I don't know. I want to say maybe he's like a teenager. Like, you could give him like 12 to 16.
Yeah, so call them both 16.
Yeah, let's call them both 16.
Who'd win in the fight?
Yeah. So I boiled it down to 4 stats categories. So I'll talk about them, and then you can kind of give me your take. So,
Okay.
Attack. The magic sword from Zelda 1 obviously still must be owned by the Zelda 2 Link, because why would a hero give up his sword if he claimed it in battle, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously he has that sword. So based on that, I found a website that ranks the magic sword as a 4. Now, Link also grows in Zelda 2 from level 1 to level 8. So that means his sword that was a 4 then becomes a 32. All right? The level 4 sword, the golden sword in A Link to the Past, is ranked as an 8. So this should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
You have an 8 ranking versus a 32 ranking.
32 is going to take it every time.
So I'm thinking I might give 1 point to Zelda 2.
Yeah.
Well, let's call him Link 2. Link 2.
Link 2.
Now, defense. Link 2 has Reflect and Shield spells. He has 4 heart containers, and his life goes from 1 to 8. So he has 8 in total. A Link to the Past Link goes from 3 hearts to 20 hearts. He gets red mail, which decreases his damage by a quarter. So basic math. Link 2 gets 64, so 4 times 2 times 8, and A Link to the Past gets 80, 20 times 4. So you got 64 hits of damage versus 80 hits of damage. I did void the shield and reflect basically because A Link to the Past has a mirror shield, invisibility rod, and the invisible cape.
Yeah.
So with those things, A Link to the Past already has better defense, plus he has a giant shield, plus he literally has items that makes him invincible for a set amount of time. So I'm thinking defense, I'm going to give a point to A Link to the Past. Yeah, makes sense?
Makes sense.
All right, so magic. Link 2 has a fire spell and a screen nuke to compete with A Link to the Past's 2 magic rods and 3 medallions. This is a tough one. I think I want to give it to A Link to the Past Link because he has 3 medallions that have 3 different magics that can do 3 different types of things. I can like light people on fire, light the way, as opposed to the screen nuke is kind of just boring.
Yeah.
And he has that ice rod, right? So he potentially could freeze the other Link. So another point, Link to the Past.
Yeah, he's got a good arsenal.
Yeah. Agility. Link 2 has a jump spell and a fairy spell, where Link to the Past has Pegasus boots and the ability to move sideways. Who wins?
Agility is one of those things where it's like, it's tough to say, because I mean, technically he can move in the other direction, because like in the overworld he is moving up, down, left, and right. And I almost want to give it to Zelda like 1, because like, is the Pegasus boots really that, like, do they affect that much?
So
like,
if
you could charge through them, I guess.
Yeah, but if I shot fire at you and you had the Pegasus boots, you could like run away better, right?
Yeah.
And the agility, like jump is fine, but like fairy, if once you become a fairy, you have to literally leave the battle. So he's just stuck being a fairy, sitting up in a corner. So I mean, that's not a very good strategy. Assuming, I guess, as soon as you got hit, you could kind of come back from it. But I don't know. The toss-up?
Call me tie.
Tie. And sorry, the final and 5th category. I think I only said there was 4. There's actually 5. Experience. Link 2 went through 16 dungeons across 2 games and saved 2 Zeldas. A Link to the Past went through 11 dungeons and saved Zelda twice. Who wins?
You almost have to kind of give it to Zelda 2.
You really do. Like, I kind of wanted to make A Link to the Past. Like, I assumed he'd be the clear-cut winner.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, they're pretty even. And really, outside of the defense, like, A Link to the Past Link has way better defense. But Zelda 2, I think...
has to take it.
Yeah.
Because he has way higher damage.
Now, that is assuming that Zelda 2 is the same Zelda from Link, or, like, Zelda 1. So... you can kind of argue in that sense, like, really, if he lost all that experience over the course of 6 years, like, what were you doing 6 years ago? Do you remember, like, the time you went grocery shopping? Probably not.
Yeah, but I feel like it's almost like training, right?
Yeah.
Imagine you went through it like 6 years ago, you basically
became a black belt.
Yeah, you came black belt. You're not going to immediately just forget that. You're going to at least have some retaining knowledge of it. And then, like, after the second one, he would get back. It would come back to him, like, really quick. So I want to say that, like, Zelda 2 is not only more experienced, comparable, like, yeah, maybe not as comparable on defense, but his attack and just being, like, since he was, like, 10 years old or whatever, and he went on that first thing, this Link at that time was probably still fishing with his uncle.
It's true.
You had, like, this kid has living, like, basically had to save the world and then had to save the world again.
Yep.
So yeah, gotta give it to Zelda 2, man.
All right.
As much as I love my Link to the Past, gotta give it to Zelda 2.
Well, I'm excited for the next game to see. Like, I'm excited to keep doing these comparisons because I'm really excited for, like, some idiot like the Spirit Tracks to be the grand overall winner or something like that,
or the Minish Cap or something like that, because his agility is so crazy that, like, he would just shrink small and just, like, literally stab him internally and game over, man.
That's sweet. So with that, I don't have anything else. Did we miss anything?
No, we covered the story, the graphics, best side characters, I guess. But I mean, we kind of covered them. There's the duck, there's the dwarves, there's the maidens, Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
All in all, just a great game.
Awesome. All right, well, it's a good one.
Cool.
I don't know what we're going to do for our next game. I think we'll finish Final Fantasy 1, and then maybe we'll talk about it on the side. I mean, really, we don't need to talk about it on this podcast, because like people are like talking to us, and like we have fans being like, man, you should play Ultima, or like play Legend of Dragoon. No one's talking like that, so we can just do
nobody's giving us a suggestion, so
we can just do our own thing. So you'll hear us in part 2 of Final Fantasy, and then we'll probably let you know then what's our next game we're going to play.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening. You can contact Podtendo on Twitter at Podtendo Podcast, email us at podtendo@gmail.com, or check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Podtendo. The music of Podtendo was used without permission and is property of Nintendo.